Marc Marquez came to Thailand as the reigning world champion. He left it with 0 points, a controversial penalty still burning in his chest, and a flat tyre hanging off the rim of his Ducati on the side of the Buriram circuit. In the space of 48 hours, the most talked about rider in MotoGP history managed to be robbed of a sprint victory and then retired from the Grand Prix in the most dramatic fashion imaginable. The 2026 title defense has started, and it has started on fire, just not in the way anyone expected. Let's go through everything that happened, because this weekend in Thailand told us things about Marc Marquez, about the championship, and about the season ahead that are going to be reverberating around the paddock for weeks. It started on Friday with Marco Bezzecchi setting the pace for Aprilia, pushing almost half a second clear of Marquez in practice and setting a new lap record at Buriram. That alone was a warning sign. Bezzecchi then took pole position on Saturday morning, locking out a front row that had 2 Aprilias on it, Bezzecchi and Raul Fernandez, with Marquez squeezed into second. His teammate Francesco Bagnaia, meanwhile, failed to make it through qualifying 1 and will start 13th on Sunday. The Ducati camp was already slightly on edge before the sprint even began. And then the sprint happened. And it was one of the most dramatic, most controversial, most talked about short races in recent MotoGP history. Marquez launched off the line like a missile, immediately pulling alongside Bezzecchi at turn 1 and seizing control of the race. Bezzecchi fought back using the Aprilia's corner speed to reclaim the lead until he made a mistake. And then a bigger one. The pole sitter crashed out from the lead, handing Marquez what looked like a clean path to victory, with Pedro Acosta the only genuine threat left on track. What followed was one of the great sprint race battles of the modern era. Acosta lunged at Marquez into the final corner, got repassed on the exit. Lunged again on lap 7, drifted wide, got repassed again. Every time Acosta found a way through, Marquez found a way back. Every time Pedro passed me, I immediately regained the lead at the next corner, Marquez said afterward. The crowd was on its feet. Then came the penultimate lap, turn 12. Marquez had seen enough of Acosta's attacks and decided to end the conversation once and for all, launching a dive bomb that sent Acosta careering off into the runoff area. The move was immediate. The investigation was immediate, and as Marquez crossed the finish line in first place on the final lap, the message appeared on his dashboard: drop 1 position. He gave the place back at the same corner, Acosta took the win, and Marquez crossed the line second, furious, barely composed, and struggling to keep the lid on emotions that were threatening to boil over right there in Parc Fermé. What made the whole thing even more explosive was the timing. Marquez's biggest complaint was not necessarily the penalty itself, it was when he received it. "Why do you take 1 minute and a half to give me the message?" he demanded. "Give it to me at the exit of turn 3 if it's clear, or wait and review the incident at the end of the race with the 2 riders." That is an entirely valid point. A minute and a half delay in delivering a position penalty in a sprint race that lasts just 13 laps is a huge chunk of racing time, and it left Marquez with nowhere near enough laps to fight back and reclaim the position. Through legitimate racing, he was forced to simply pull over and hand it over. He stood in Parc Fermé, shook Acosta's hand, and refused to say whether he agreed with the decision when asked directly. "In my opinion, the race direction decides, so I follow the rules," he said, a carefully chosen sentence that managed to say almost nothing while making his feelings perfectly clear. His team boss at Ducati, Davide Tardozzi, was nowhere near as diplomatic. He came out blazing, calling the penalty unfair and making clear that in Ducati's view the move did not deserve to be penalized. And the wider paddock was divided almost perfectly down the middle. Fabio Quartararo said he could understand the penalty because Acosta was forced off the track, but also acknowledged that Marquez had not exceeded the track limits himself. Raul Fernandez, who had a grandstand view from directly behind the pair, was unequivocal in his opposition to the call, saying, "If you see the action between Marc and Pedro, well, when Marc touched Pedro, it was because he was on the wheelie moment and he couldn't change the direction. I don't really agree with these penalties, because this is the beautiful thing of motorsport. If you want to keep the show, if you want to show that MotoGP is the best sport in the world, you need to keep these patterns." Fabio Di Giannantonio went further, saying bluntly, "We must punch each other, we must smash fairing one to the other, we must give elbows, on track, in between white lines." Joan Mir, meanwhile, was not arguing the contact was acceptable, but he was furious about inconsistency, saying, "If Marc's maneuver is always penalized from now on, fine. What I don't like is the inconsistency." And TNT Sports pundit Neil Hodgson was one of the few voices who backed the stewards fully, arguing that Marquez had come from too far back for the move to be legal. "He came from about 2 bike lengths too far back to try the move," Hodgson said. "But I love that he tried it. That's why we like Marc Marquez." Even Acosta himself, the man who benefited from the entire thing, refused to pile on, saying he didn't believe the move deserved to be penalized and that it felt like a racing incident. For the winner to say that in Parc Fermé is remarkable. Marquez himself eventually drew the line under the sprint controversy with a sentence that has become the most quoted thing in the paddock this weekend. "That penalty? It's the new MotoGP. We need to adapt to the new rules. It's the only thing." And then, because he is Marc Marquez, he pivoted to the Grand Prix and said, "9 points, first race after injury, not bad, I'm happy." Classic. He arrived in Thailand already carrying the weight of a shoulder fracture sustained in Indonesia at the end of 2025, 3 crashes during the Buriram pre-season test while also battling illness, and genuine question marks about whether his shoulder would hold up under race conditions. 9 sprint points and a penalty was not ideal, but he was alive, he was fast, and Sunday was still ahead. And then Sunday happened. And everything that could go wrong did. Marquez had a difficult opening lap, losing second place to Fernandez before having to fight off a charge from Jorge Martin. By lap 4, he had lost further ground to both Pedro Acosta and Bezzecchi, who was already stretching out a lead from the front that would eventually become unassailable. Marquez fought back with the aggression that defines him, executing a stunning double move into turn 4 on lap 10 to repass both Martin and Acosta simultaneously. But Acosta's pace was simply stronger in the second half of the race, and he eventually pulled back past Marquez cleanly, leaving the reigning champion in 4th. And then came the moment that ended his weekend in the worst way possible. Following Fernandez and Acosta into the high-speed turn 6, Marquez's rear tyre suddenly delaminated, completely coming off the rim in spectacular and violent fashion. His race was over on the spot. He climbed off the bike on the side of the track, and the flat tyre that was hanging off the rim of his GP26 became the defining image of Ducati's weekend. To make it even more brutal, his younger brother Alex crashed out in the same race, and Joan Mir suffered a similar tyre issue on the Honda, parking in the garage with rubber visibly missing from the middle of his tyre. The heat, the track surface, the curbing something was destroying rear tyres in Buriram on Sunday, and it cost Marc Marquez what could have been a salvage podium. What do you think? Was the penalty on Marquez fair? Or did race direction rob him of a sprint victory with that delay? Can he recover from a 0-point Sunday and still challenge for the title? Or have Bezzecchi and Acosta already shown they are the real threat in 2026? And is Ducati's pre-season confidence already starting to crack? Drop your predictions in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button and subscribe for more MotoGP news. I'll catch you in the next one.